Hello, everyone. Want to thank you guys all for coming in. We still have some people who are hopping in, so they might see some other names popping through. Want to go ahead and just introduce myself. My name is Justin McRobert. I work with our transfer students here at Pacific. I recognize many of the names on here. A lot of people kind of from different spots. We are, as far as the transfer students, if you're coming through the admissions office, you'd be working with me. I was a transfer student myself. This is something that's kind of a project for me, passion project, I guess, is helping students find the right fit for their school. So this is something that I wanted to offer to be able to help students kind of make those decisions. I know a lot of you guys know about Pacific, have checked us out, so I'm not going to be doing a whole Pacific 101. Just wanted to kind of welcome you, and we're going to hammer through a few different things today. We'll have a little presentation from advising specific to transfers. We're also going to have a panel with real students and real faculty. So it's a good opportunity to kind of get to know a few more faces around other than just me. If there are any students here that are dual enrolled, you are more than welcome to stick around. But if you're currently a high school senior finishing up as well, this may be geared a little bit more toward the specific transfer, but some of the things will still be applicable. So if you want to hang out, you are more than welcome to. Okay, we're going to do, the first thing is going to be Heidi from advising. See that she's on there.
Thanks, Justin. I'm just pulling up my screen here. Up. 1 second. I will be right with you. Technical difficulties here.
No problem. It happens to all of us. Also, real quick, if there are any questions throughout, feel free to put them over in the chat, and we will follow up with the presenters. If they're specific for me, feel free to send me a private message, or if you want me to read it anonymously, I can also do that if you send it to me as a private message.
Okay, here we go. Okay, so as Justin said, I'm Heidi Wright. I'm one of the academic and career advisors. And like Justin said, we love transfer students at Pacific because most of us were in your position when we were in college, and we understand the unique challenges that you face. Also pictured is my colleague, Mike. Mike is our director, and he typically attends these transfer sessions, but he's in Sun River right now on vacation. So I'm going to take about 15 minutes to talk to you first about what to expect from our office as far as advising and registration, as well as the other services that we offer. Then what you can do to prepare for registration, and then lastly, the class registration process itself. At the end, we'll have a few minutes for questions, and I'll give you my contact information as well as Mike's if you have additional questions after. Okay.
Hey, Heidi, I don't think you're sharing screen right now.
I'm not? Is that true? Now am I, Justin?
I don't see it.
It says I'm sharing.
Okay.
Can anybody else chime in?
Yeah, Heidi, I don't see it either.
That's really weird because it says I'm sharing.
Let me see if I can help figure it out.
How about now?
Whoop, yep.
There we go.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so, but everyone hears me, correct? So I'm going to go ahead and just continue on then, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you're going good now.
Okay. Um, Now I'm having trouble. Okay, and you're still good? You can still see the presentation?
Yes, but we can see your notes also.
Oh, well, I don't want you to see my notes. Okay, so I will take the notes away. I'm sorry.
It's all right. We'll figure it all out. Thanks for bearing with us.
Yeah. Okay. Academic and Career Advising Center, what do we do? So we help students get started as far as looking at your transfer credits and how they come in. And we help you understand our requirements and how your credits how your credits translate to our program, and what credits you have left to take. And then we help you set up an actual plan. As far as career advising, we also do career advising as academic and career advisors. And so we can help you with coming up with grad school plans, as well as understanding your interests and your skills and your career values. Career values are like lifestyle values. So we can help you with that. In addition, something that we're really good at is helping you create your network and make an online presence for yourself. We do host career fairs and do the typical look at your resume and cover letter, and help you with the application process as well. So we have this academic and career advising team. Most of us are advisors. We do have a couple of exceptions. We hired 2 new people. One is Angel and the other is Vanessa. So Angel is an academic coach. So he helps if you're having any kind of problems related to success at Pacific. And Vanessa is our community outreach person. So she helps with Handshake, which is our platform for finding positions at Pacific. So we really do have a commitment to your success. Okay, where are we? Well, right now we're remote, but typically we are kitty corner and across from the admissions office. So we have 2 buildings. Right now we're doing all of our appointments through phone calls or Zoom. And you can just go to advising pacificu.edu advising to set up an appointment with any of us. Okay, spring students. Class registration begins January 5th. And if you're a fall student, your registration will happen in June of 2021. So next June. We will take care of contacting you. You do not need to contact us unless you're worried or have specific questions. What we ask though is you check your email. Check your email often. So once your email is set up, you need to be checking that on a daily basis because we will send you updates and things that need to be done to do this, as well as an appointment to do your advising and registration. Oh, something that Mike wanted me to mention here is during your Zoom appointment, we'll go over all of your requirements and your credits and how they fit in and what classes you have left. And we can help you with an academic plan for your remaining semesters. You actually register for classes during the appointment and you get your class schedule, and that'll include what books you need for your classes coming up. If you are on a wait list for a class, don't worry about that because typically there's enough movement that many times you can get into the class and your advisor will advise you on that. Okay, so what should you be doing now? You definitely need to set up, after you've deposited, you'll be sent a notice at whatever email you give us, and you'll set up your university email account. This is a welcome email that you'll get, and the typical email is the first four of your last name and then the last four of your ID, followed by at pacificu.edu. This is very important to set that up as soon as possible. Once you set that up, we'll give you an invitation to complete the academic interest survey. The academic interest survey just gives us a really good idea of what your goals are academically, as well as career goals. And so after that's done, that's kind of a trigger to tell us, okay, you're ready for an advising and registration appointment. Something else that you absolutely need to do, and this is not something that we will remind you of, is request your college transcripts. So we need the most up-to-date transcripts that you have. So every class that you've taken needs to come to us. And if you've gone to a couple of colleges, so say you went to Clark and you went to PCC, we need original official transcripts from each of those locations sent directly to us. So we couldn't have just the PCC ones with the Clark classes on it. We have to have the original transcripts sent to our registrar's office. Oh, that's it. Okay, questions?
All right, are there any questions specific for advising? Now's a good time to kind of field those, process, and otherwise. Heidi did a great job covering pretty much everything, but if you do have any of those questions, you can throw them in the chat, or you can even ask them live. Okay, I have a question that came through. How long will it be to graduate if I come in after 2 years?
Well, it depends on what program. What program are you coming into? Do you know?
It says business.
Business. So typically with business, we ask that you take in your first 2 years the two economics, micro and macroeconomics, and then your first two accountings, which is financial accounting and managerial accounting. So if you've taken those, you're right on track, because that's what our students would have taken. If you haven't, that's still okay. We can double up on classes, and I would fully expect that you could get done in 2 years. Okay,
perfect. And I always say with students, it really is going to be dependent on the classes that you've taken, because 2 years is an amount of time. It doesn't necessarily allude to the right classes or the right sequence of classes. So it's always good to work with advising early in the process and kind of get an idea of how that's going to work.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Justin. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Have another one that came in. That is there a minimum number of credits to transfer? And I can go ahead and cover that one. So a transfer student is anybody who has taken college level classes after high school graduation, not including the summer immediately following their graduation. They become a transfer student. At Pacific, their students are not required to have an associate's degree or a certain number of credits to apply as a transfer. Some schools are going to be a little bit different, so it's always good to work with the school and determine how that works. So when we do evaluations for credit, it will be based off of those. Now, with that being said, if you your high school performance will be utilized if you have under 30 semester credits or under 45 term credits at time of admission. All right. And maximum number of credits, Heidi. Would you like to cover that one?
Maximum number of credits coming in?
Yes.
Well, your last at least 30 credits have to be taken at Pacific.
Okay. And how far in advance should I get advising?
It depends on what you need advising for. The actual advising and registration, we will set up that time. So we'll take care of making sure that you get the advising for the following semester in plenty of time.
Okay.
But you're welcome to email us at any time, and we can answer questions up front.
Yeah, I'm thinking they were thinking pre-transfer advising.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so being able to work with the advising center early and often in the process is always the best avenue to make sure that you have the smoothest transition to Pacific. Okay, and then we had a where and how do I set up my Pacific U email? So what will happen is we have different trigger emails that kind of happen at different points in the process. So when a student is admitted, they will get information on setting up their PU Net ID, which is kind of our own network ID to be able to view things like financial aid awards. Once a student deposits, then it will trigger things like the setting up the Pacific University email. And then that will be how different departments, including things like advising, housing, those will utilize that later on. But it does open up the student account as well with that positive balance for the enrollment deposit. All right. Okay, got some more here. Okay. Is the process for transferring credits the same for high schoolers? I know you said this would be less orientated people in my situation, but I want to make sure that I'm taking all the right steps. So Julie, so the question was, is the process for transferring credits the same for high schoolers as it is for transfer students?
Well, typically high school students, I think you're probably talking about AP and IB credits. Is that correct?
No, this student would be coming in with either an associate's or
credits.
close to, yeah, from PCC.
Okay. Yeah, no, the process is the same then. Yeah, we just need original transcripts, not from the high school. We need them from the colleges sent directly to our registrar's office.
Yeah, perfect. And then maybe you know this one here. How do transfers get internships? Do you have any insight on that from the career side?
I do, because Vanessa, who is our new hire, and we've really made a huge commitment to the career side recently. Vanessa is our community relations coordinator, and she handles a platform that we at Pacific have called Handshake. So Handshake has job opportunities for students as well as internship opportunities. And so she can work with you on finding those. And you do have access as a Pacific student to Handshake. You already have an account. All you need to do is activate it.
Perfect. All right. Let's see. Okay, any other questions? Like we have some of our panel popping in here. Right. Okay. Do you accept students for spring semester? And if so, when do you need to apply by? So with the spring semester start, we are still accepting applications for spring semester. As long as the application is submitted and taken care of, I normally say in the month of December, then there's still possibility of being able to get everything done in time for that spring start. Like Heidi had said, they'll do the advising and registration for those students in January. So it's a little bit of a tighter timeline, but we can definitely make that happen.
We can also create a plan for you based on unofficial transcripts. So you can email those to me. I do that all the time, is look at unofficial transcripts. But in order to register for classes, we have to have the officials.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a great point. A lot of times with our pre-transfer advising, I oftentimes say that advising is an extension of what we do in the admissions office for transfers, because a lot of the information about how classes are going to transfer, timeline to completion, those kinds of pieces are really vital in making that decision. And so we often are working with advising and sending students back and forth and saying, hey, you should really talk with advising about that question about which classes you should be taking in the next term or semester to make sure everything is all lined up. So, all right, perfect. Well, I think that we are, oh, is there work study opportunities? Okay, that is a great one.
Yes.
So yes, we do have ample work study opportunities that are on campus, both as part of the federal work study program as well as student workers. So students can work while on campus. The other nice thing too, beyond the jobs that are on campus, we are surrounded by the city of Forest Grove. We're a block off of Main Street from Forest Grove. And so there's a lot of opportunities too for students that do want to pick up some extra hours or some hours at a different location. The work study ones are going to include both jobs on campus and through some of the community partnerships as well. So that's a great one. I do think that the jobs on campus really do help students kind of connect, and especially coming in as a transfer, it is good to make those connections quickly. So another question: can I change my major after getting to Pacific?
Yes.
Heidi,
Yes.
that one and the nuances of
Yeah.
transfer student and changing major.
Yeah, so that's kind of a common question. Students do change their major, some more than once, and that's perfectly fine. We do ask that you declare your major once you reach 60 credits. So that would be junior status, but that doesn't mean you can't change it. You certainly can change it. The only caveat there is there could be additional classes that you would have to take for the new major, and so it could extend your time.
Yes, and when we say extending time, sometimes it's an additional semester. Sometimes it's also just we can make it happen, but you might have to take an extra class here or there to kind of pick that up. So it's okay, and then able to double major. It's going to be dependent on what obviously, yes, you can. But as far as the timeline, it's going to be a little bit dependent on the classes that you've taken and what can fit into the schedule. Any other thoughts on that, Heidi?
Well, about a third of your degree is electives. And so for a double major, typically a lot of the second major classes would go in there. But Justin's right, typically you probably have to take a few additional classes, but we can plan that out. And it really depends on what majors you're talking about too.
It's a little bit easier with some of the crossovers that are kind of, I don't know, almost like cousin degrees. They're a little bit closer than if you have two that are, if you're doing an interest in chemistry and psychology, kind of on two different sides, then it may be a little bit more finagling, but we have students that do it all the time, and our advisors are the ones that you want to work with to help make sure that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Perfect. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started on our panel, little Q&A and all of that. So if the faculty, students want to pop on here, join me with your lovely faces.
Hi, Justin.
Hey. Oh,
You blocked me, Justin. Is that something personal?
I would never block you.
About?
Gina, can you take a look at Leaf and Chris? They're both unable to. Hey, there we go.
Thank you.
Hey,
All right.
all right.
Perfect. Well, I will hand it over to JC here to run this show.
Thank you, Justin. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. My name is JC Whitehead. I'm Associate Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. I'm also a professor of sociology here at Pacific, and I'm really excited to welcome you to this transfer open house. We're going to have time on this panel just to introduce ourselves. We've got some students here, we got some faculty here, and we're just going to say a little bit about what we do at Pacific and why we chose Pacific. And then you'll have a chance to ask whatever questions you have for us. So while we are talking, which, you know, you got some professors here, so we can talk. We're pretty good at that. You can be thinking about the kind of questions you have for us. Okay? And we'll make sure that this panel will be relevant. And I know Rebecca has had her V8 juice. She's ready for this. She's pumped. Yep. Sarah right now is chugging down that caffeinated tea. Let's do this. Okay. I'm going to pick on Professor Garcia to go first.
Of course you are. Hey everyone, my name is Mike Garcia. Like JC, I'm an associate dean here in the College of Arts and Sciences. My area that I oversee is the arts and humanities, so all of the performing arts, English, philosophy, world languages, media arts, and the studio arts. I've been a faculty in the media arts as a graphic designer and web designer for 21 years. And I came to Pacific for a lot of reasons, but mostly it was the small college environment that I really wanted and was really enamored with as an undergrad. It's all about the close connections with students and working one-on-one with them, including my many transfers that I've had in my 21 years. And so that's what keeps me here. That's what keeps me going, is working with the students like all of you.
Speaking of working with the students, did I cut you off, Mike?
It's all right. I cut you off.
Speaking of working with the students, we've got Chris here and Sarah here, and I've had the pleasure of being able to work with both of you, Chris and Sarah. So I feel delighted that you're both on this panel. Sarah, do you want to give us a little background on you know, what you do at Pacific, what you've done at Pacific, and why you chose Pacific?
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Sarah Goot, and I actually graduated from Pacific as I was an incoming transfer student. I graduated from Pacific in 2017, and I now work in the admissions office as a visit coordinator. And so I graduated from Pacific with my bachelor's in psychology, and then I chose to stick around here, and just like I know JC has stuck around here for quite some time too, out of college, and so happens to a lot of us. And so, yeah, I'm working in admissions right now, and having a lot of fun setting up visits and working with students that are interested in Pacific.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah. And Ryan, you're here from the College of Business. We'd love to have you introduce yourself and talk about why you chose Pacific.
Yeah, thank you, JC, and welcome everyone. I'm Ryan Garcia. I'm Director of Admissions for the College of Business here at Pacific. And I work pretty closely with students even after they join us on campus, helping them plan ahead for graduate school and such in business as well. But yeah, I chose Pacific. I came in at undergrad and actually came through the liberal arts side, arts and sciences side with political science and Spanish. And then I got my master's in business administration from Pacific University. And yeah, just keep coming back because I enjoy it here so much.
Yeah, I'm going to start calling it the Pacific orbit. And I mean, don't even try to get out of the orbit. It's just like you're in the gravitational pull going on there. Okay. Rebecca, you can see I'm struggling with my wording around natural scientific phenomena.
Yeah, well, I thought you did pretty well, because I was going to go very liberal arts and say it's the Hotel California, which any Eagles fan will know, but otherwise, anyway, you never get out. Well, welcome everybody. It's great to meet you. I'm Rebecca, and I am a kinesiology professor. I'm also the director for the School of Natural Sciences. So if you're interested in any of these science areas, I'm happy to talk to you more about those, or our 3 plus programs where we connect up with some of the health professions as well. What else did you want to know about it, JC? Why we're here? What we're
Why
doing?
Pacific, Rebecca? Why Pacific?
Well, the Orbit, the Hotel California, and I guess the community. I've been a transfer student in my undergraduate years, and I recognize it sometimes feels hard to connect. I went to kind of a larger school when I did my transfer. But you'll find that Pacific is very community oriented. It doesn't matter if you've been somewhere else for a while or haven't been in school for a while. We're a tight-knit group, and we are here to help you succeed. Our students are great about working together with each other, and it's a really supportive environment with a high quality education. So that's a big part of it for me.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Leaf, how about you?
Great. Yeah. Thanks, JC. Hey, everybody. It's great to see you and see your names. I'm Leif Gustafson. I'm the Dean of the College of Education. And so I'm here to represent everything teacher preparation and education. I've taught in the undergraduate program. And so always excited about talking about teaching and learning with anyone interested in becoming a teacher. I chose Pacific. I came from Philly a little over 6 years ago out here to Oregon, and I chose Pacific because so in our education programs, we immerse our students in schools in the doing of teaching right away, and I really believe that that's right at the beginning of the program. So. And I really believe that that's kind of the way that, you learn how to be a teacher, right? Living alongside teachers and students and experiencing what it looks, sounds, and feels like to be a teacher. And that's at the heart of what we do in the College of Education and the coaching and mentoring, of our students. And also we're a real creative, imaginative bunch. And that just excites me and makes me want to come to work, each day. So those are things that make me love being here.
Thank you very much, Leaf. And speaking of things that make me excited, Chris, I am very impressed with those houseplants behind you. I'd love to know your secret for keeping the houseplants alive. I wouldn't want to show you what mine look like. They're a little ragged, my friend. So congratulations on those houseplants. And Chris, please introduce yourself to the group.
Thanks, JC. Honestly, it's just finding the right humidity, finding the right amount of sun, and then just a little love. I think they give more love to me than I give love to them. But they definitely, since being indoors, I mean, this has been my classroom, my home, and everything. It's nice to have some of the outdoors indoors. But hello, everyone. Happy you all were able to make it. I'm Chris Walker, and I am a transfer student here at Pacific. I am a senior. I am majoring in psychology with a minor in kinesiology. Prior to coming to Pacific, I actually did 6 years in the United States Marine Corps. And then I did a year at Portland Community College. And that's where I met one of the former transfer student admission counselors, Tanya Hand. She was tabling. And I knew about Pacific growing up. I grew up out in Hillsboro, but I never really wanted to stay here. I kind of thought I would go elsewhere. But after meeting Tanya, she was just so personable, excited about the school. It felt like it was real. It wasn't just kind of a show she was putting on because it was her job. And so when I came to one of the open houses and then I came and visited school when we could visit in person, and they did the tours. That's the word I'm thinking of. The tours around campus. I could see that it wasn't just something that Tanya was saying, but it was actually a part of the atmosphere of Pacific. Was I saw students interacting with everybody, with one another. I saw faculty and staff connecting with the students, and that is what's kept me here. And I'm, a bit sad that I'll be graduating this May, because I wish I'd go back and start as a freshman and do it all over again. And if as a transfer student, I know that many of us, we have outside lives that are more complicated than the traditional student. And professors are more than willing to accommodate whatever situation that might come up. They're super personable. And then another big thing that I found extremely helpful was the fact that being an older student and transfer student, I thought it might separate me from my classmates, but it was actually the opposite. The traditional students love the transfer students because they get to learn from you. You have experience you bring to the classroom, different types of knowledge, and they want to pick your brain of what is it like kind of on the other side to be an adult outside of school. And so you provide that connection with the students, but also being an older student and non-traditional, you also usually make stronger connections to your professors because you have that different bond of different experiences they bring to the classroom. So that's what's keeping me here. And like I said, I'm a little bit sad that I'll be graduating, but I'm very, very happy that I met Tanya and have been able to be a part of this community.
Thank you so much, Chris, and everybody. Really appreciate that. So not a lot of questions flooding the chat at the moment, but I'll give you some time to think about that while I say a few words about why I chose Pacific. Also, Justin, you can tell me if I shouldn't be stepping on any toes here, but please feel free to, if you want to, you can turn your camera on and ask a question. It's totally fine, right, Justin?
It is completely acceptable.
Right. Yeah. So it's totally fine if you want to ask a question, through regular means rather than going through chat. So like I said before, I'm JC Whitehead. I'm Associate Dean in College of Arts and Sciences. I oversee programs in psychology, sociology, history. I could go through the whole rundown, but general social sciences, sometimes histories and humanities, but here it's in social sciences. Social work, public health, criminal justice. And the reason why I chose Pacific, I went to graduate school and got my PhD at the University of California at Berkeley. And I really enjoyed the culture there. I enjoyed being around people who were at the top of the field, the best and the brightest people I felt around. I enjoyed that atmosphere, but I wanted to teach and do research as a scholar at a place where I could work with undergraduate students. And as you may know, at these big research institutions, you don't get a lot of time to work with undergraduates. Most of your work is with graduate students, which I think are, graduate students are great, but that wasn't the kind of work that I wanted to do. I wanted to work with students who are still figuring out who they want to be in life and being more of a mentor to people who are coming to their own. And I decided Pacific because Pacific was a place that really had an infrastructure that would allow faculty to do close one-on-one work with students, whether it's with research or with teaching or just exploring passions that students have. It really was a big deal to Pacific. And the other reason is because you've probably caught on to this already, but Pacific is big around experiential education, like Leif was talking about. And it's very important to us that our students actually do things. Practice things that are in the field. And I was really attracted to that and think it's important. So while I've been at Pacific and teaching sociology, I've had a lot of students involved in my research. I've published peer review articles with students. We have traveled internationally to conferences. We've been to Sweden, we've been to Ireland. One time when I was busy having my first kid, students went to Helsinki without me to present our research. I wasn't jealous at all because I had a cute little baby. But you get the picture, we are family with our students. And I know people throw around that word a lot, but my students come back, they say hi. We send Christmas cards and holiday cards and New Year's cards and whatever to each other. It's hard if you're not on campus, you may not see this, but normally there are people in the hallways who aren't current students and aren't current faculty who have come back to say hi. And Chris, you're nodding your head, so you have noticed some of these interactions where alumni come back and faculty are like, "Hey, what's going on?" So it's just that kind of a place with a lot of love, I guess, and a lot of community that people feel. And I think that's why people often come back to Pacific, is it feels like coming back home in a lot of ways. So anyway, that's me rattling on, and you all are still thinking of questions. I'm going to give some time just to be quiet for a minute. So if you want to turn your camera on and ask a question, you can do so. Otherwise, I have some good questions that I'm going to throw out anyway. Chris, was that a hand?
Yeah, it was more of a response to when I hopped on when they were talking about work study. And that's something that I've heard from my peers and my other classmates and my friends, stuff, that a lot of them, when they're looking for a work study, they typically find one, and find one that they're interested in. So, and professors always pushing out, I'm always getting emails of, oh, there's a work study here, here's work study, or there's a connection to be made. I think it was Justin that brought up of right outside the community, right out here in Forest Grove, and locals right here in Forest Grove love hiring students. And it's fun to go to all these local coffee shops and restaurants and whatnot, and seeing my classmates working, and it builds that community outside of school too. And the locals love having us a part of the community. I moved here right when COVID happened, and a lot of them were like, we miss the students and we're sad they're not gonna be all coming back like normal. So they're always gonna be willing to hire students as well.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I know frequently the kinds of questions that I hear from transfer students, and this is before COVID, and there may be some things that you're concerned about or wondering about that really are specific to the world we're living in right now. But I know if you're coming in with a lot of credits, maybe you're coming in junior status, I'm not sure, you may be concerned about, how long does it take to actually build relationships with your faculty members? Because, getting good letters of recommendation, having that social networking that your faculty can help with, it does take time to develop. And that's why when you come to Pacific as a transfer student, it's important to right away go to faculty's office hours, introduce yourself, get to know people. And I think that, you'll find that faculty love it when students come to their office, and you don't necessarily have to have a specific agenda item. Like, I want to talk about this assignment. You could just come in and just talk about, an interest that you might have in their work, or the kind of topic that they are experts in, or you might just want to discuss who you are. And, the professors at Pacific teach here because they actually want to get to know the students. That's why they chose this kind of job. So they love it just to hear from you. And that's a big part of making sure that you have all the advantages that come with going to a small liberal arts college, even if it means you're only going to be here for 2 years rather than the full 4. But all right, I think we have some questions coming in. This is great. Okay, this is good. So can we talk a little bit about how Pacific prepares students for programs in the health professions? Anybody want to take that one on? Rebecca, I know there's a lot of this work going on in your area. Do you want to talk about it?
I'm happy to start. So, the students who are interested in health professions often are taking majors in the sciences, but they don't have to. And so within those classes, depending on the course of study that you're taking, a lot of your prerequisites will be covered in those programs of study. So biology is a very common one. Kinesiology is a very common one. If you're going into pharmacy, it might be environmental studies, chem toxicology, or chemistry. So it kind of depends on what you're going into. And so we also have a pre-med advisor who will help you prep your application materials, make sure you're on track to applying to med school particularly. And then regardless of your major, we do try to have students who are interested in the allied health professions take the sequence of 3 1-credit courses. And I'm not sure if that was discussed already earlier in your meetings, but it's a sequence of courses that would prepare you for application into any of the allied health professions. And depending on your GPA at that time, when you're a junior, it might promise you an interview to some of our health professions programs. So there's a lot of ways to do that. Again, depending on which health profession you're interested in, study abroad is really helpful. Some kind of international experience can be really helpful. Having a second language can be really helpful. But again, you could be a music major, and as long as you get your prereqs, you could still apply and be accepted into health profession programs. So it doesn't have to be in the sciences, but that's where a lot of your prereqs are going to come from. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Leaf.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that within the College of Education, we have the School of Communication Sciences and Disorders, which prepares students to be speech language pathologists. And we have a minor in communication sciences and disorders that students can take that will prepare them to apply into a master's program in speech language pathology. So that's another kind of healthcare track that students can take advantage of.
Thanks, Leaf. And I also just, since you're talking, I have another question coming in here about from a student interested in becoming a secondary teacher. And they're wondering what kind of programs there are that specifically will get them ready to be a secondary teacher.
Right. So we do prepare secondary ed teachers at the undergraduate level. So you can pursue that, as an undergraduate. There are kind of two tracks in our education program at the undergraduate level. One is the Bachelor of Arts in Education and Learning, and you graduate with a bachelor's degree. And the other is you can graduate with that bachelor's degree and a license, either at the elementary, middle, or secondary level. And so you would work really closely with your advisor to, if you're interested in being a middle school or high school teacher, work really closely with your advisor who would help you, in terms of the courses that you would need to take at the undergraduate level to be able to, graduate if you wanted, with your license. Now, another thing that you can do is you can graduate with your bachelor's and then choose to, continue to work with us at the graduate level and decide to get your license, your license as a high school teacher through the MAT program. And so there are a lot of students that do that, and you would sometimes that's called the 5th year program. So you would then apply into our MAT program and then be able to get your license and a master's degree in 1 year. So there are a few different ways to to go about doing that.
Great, thank you, Leaf. So what about opportunities to go abroad? As a transfer student, it may feel like you've only got so much time, you don't have time to go abroad. Can that happen at Pacific? And if so, what does that look like?
Well, I'll jump in there real quick because study abroad is one of the areas that I work closely with because I work with the world languages. And so world language majors, and we have majors in the Spanish, French, German, and Japanese. There's actually a study abroad requirement to earn that degree. That could be a full semester study abroad or a shorter term summer study abroad. We have, I've lost count, something like 18 to 20 different locations that we have partnerships with across the world, where your Pacific tuition pays for your tuition at that other location. All you have to do is get there and live there while you're studying. We have all these agreements where, because we've vetted all these other places that you could be studying abroad in. And so through those agreements, you can continue to work on your Pacific degree, whatever your major or minor is, while you're studying abroad. So it doesn't set you back in terms of what you're studying. So we've looked at courses. We can evaluate courses like, hey, I'm thinking about going to Seville. And here's the courses that are available to me as a study abroad. We can look at those, on a case-by-case basis and count as many as possible towards your Pacific undergraduate degree. So it's not just like this singular study abroad experience. You're still working on your Pacific degree while you're abroad. You're just getting that very international experience.
Right, and we also have a lot of short-term travel courses available, right? Ryan, I think your hand was going up right as I started talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I did study abroad when I was actually a student at Pacific, doing one of the programs Mike mentioned, where, yeah, you pay Pacific with your grants and scholarships, kind of like you're staying on campus, eating on campus, and going to class on campus. And so in my case, I was in the Seville program. Pacific found me a company there. Company found me a host family that gave me 3 home cooked meals a day, swept my room, did my laundry, still miss it to this day every week. Then the company took us on trips. So we got to go to Roman ruins, orchestras, concerts, museums. We spent one night in a 15th century castle. And then the next night was in a 14th century monastery. And they also flew us to Marrakesh, Morocco, paid for the flight, the tour guides, the bus trips, the camel rides. Flew us to Paris, France too, but no camels. We got the Louvre though, so it kind of balanced out there. So it's just kind of nice. You can really have that experience for the same cost as staying on campus. And yeah, I actually didn't take any history classes at Pacific. All my history classes were taken while there in Seville, because the university is a converted tobacco factory. So 2/3 of the world's tobacco used to go through the building, and now it's a university for arts and humanities, which is kind of cool. But yeah, we do have those short-term programs as well for all kinds of different subjects. I know Leaf has some with education that go, I think it's to Kenya or somewhere in Africa, and places like that. Some go to London to see the Globe Theatre, culinary arts in France or Spain, humanities / Spanish go as well, biology. So they all have kind of special interests, a little bit more money, but still it's definitely nice to be able to go for a short 2-week trip when you wouldn't otherwise be in class, and you get to bond really closely with Pacific faculty and other students from the university, which is nice.
And I totally didn't know that Ryan went to Seville. I just pulled Seville out of thin air because I had a student that went to Seville. So nice coincidence there that I wasn't making it up, Ryan.
Well, hey, now everybody's going to want to go to Seville and have their laundry done and their room swept.
And ride a camel.
Right. Oh, that's great. So, hey, this is specifically for Chris and for Sarah. What is your take on, the transition from taking community college classes, for example, to taking classes at Pacific? How did that go for you? And do you have any tips for transfer students on that? Sarah?
Yes, I do have a really good one. Tanya would be laughing right now if she heard me talking about this, but so when I actually went to PCC and got my AA there, and I really wanted to go into music therapy, and I loved everything. I grew up in a band, learned how to play music by ear. So music is something that I've always grown up with, but I never learned how to actually read and like learn music theory. So when I got to Pacific and I was like, I'm going to do music therapy, I tried to learn how to read music on the fly while taking the classes. That was not a good idea. They said, it's doable, people have done it, but I just found that instead I decided to stick to just psychology and not have that music aspect. But I spoke to a career academic advisor, and they said, you can always implement music into any of your sort of like therapy practices if you do want to move on into counseling and therapy. And so that was nice to know. But yeah, I definitely would, the transition to Pacific was very different. At PCC, I was getting like A's and B's, like no problem. It took a little bit extra harder work to get A's and B's here. So I definitely spent a lot of time in the library and with study groups. But like Chris said, it's really awesome to be able to bring just a different aspect and a different mindset to these classes. I took a class with JC, and just taking JC's gender and sexuality class with my previous learnings from in community college, like it was just very interesting to see how much more in depth everyone gets at Pacific, and the class discussions can get pretty hot and heavy, but it's really, really fun. And It took me a couple weeks for me to actually take a breath and say, okay, this is just how Pacific is. This is, everyone's going through the same thing. Everyone has the same like work course load, we're all in the same boat. And so that's when I started to calm down. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit more challenging coming to Pacific from a community college, but it's definitely doable.
Great, thank you, Sarah. What about you, Chris? Any thoughts?
Yes, there's the biggest difference is that I enjoyed the classes so much more. And as Sarah said, they were more engaging, both with the students and with the faculty. The discussions kept going. It's one of those, like all my classes, I haven't had any that like when it ends, it's like it's too soon. Versus I felt at community college, sometimes it'd be a lot more dry. And I think a lot of that has to do with the students here wanting to be here. And when class ends, they continue to, the conversation continues out the door. And so that to me was a big difference that I really liked. Also, it is a step up in the amount of work, but it's not so unbearable that like you'll be able to connect with if you feel like you're struggling a little bit at the beginning, your professors are going to be there too, and they understand that, especially if you connect with them at the beginning, like, hey, I'm a new transfer student here, I just came for they're going to be all about that, and they're going to be probably checking in on you more than you're checking in with them, and they'll be asking how you're doing. So anytime you start to feel like you're struggling, they want to know how things are going, and they're gonna be more than happy to help you and see you through and get you rolling. And then you'll pick it up quite quickly though.
Right, thank you, Chris. Good, so let's talk a little bit about, internships and practicum and things like that. I mean, we've touched on how Pacific really prides itself on experiential learning, but we have experiential learning that also involves getting paid and also involves, getting hired for jobs before you even graduate. And I know that all of you sitting here have programs where the absolute core of the program is in practicum and internship. And maybe I'll just pick on, Ryan, and also I want to pick on Mike to talk a little bit more about some of the internship opportunities that are in, business and media arts. And I know, Leif, you've talked about some in education, and maybe Rebecca, you could mention a few too when you're looking at I don't know, all kinds of opportunities in the natural sciences. So, Mike, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So, with my 20 years in the media arts, I probably did 50 internships. And I think what you're going to find if you're out looking at schools, talking to admissions counselors, larger schools just sort of say, yes, we have 40 internships every semester for students, which is to say they've kind of got them all prearranged and slotted. And there's something nice about that, that it's out there. In the media arts, over all my years, we never actually had these like really established every semester internships. And I thought that was good because I was able to work one-on-one with my students and say, what size of an organization do you want to be in? What kind of work do you want to be doing? And so a student, would say, well, I want to work in sports. That was a pretty common one for us. And so because we have, I've got contacts, I've got alums, I've got internship coordinators, and there's an internship coordinator at Pacific. Through the network of all these people, we're able to basically place students into really unique internship opportunities that play to their strengths. So when I had students that came to me and said, like, I'm really interested in sports, I'm an athlete, I'd like to work in a sports environment. We placed 4 students with the Trailblazers over the course of 10 years. We placed 1 student with the Seattle Seahawks, who now works for the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seattle Sounders, the soccer team. And then in other cases where I have a student say, like, I'm really passionate about nonprofit organizations and community organizations, we're able to just go out in the local community through our McCall Center for Civic Engagement and place students as web designers, graphic designers, video producers with these smaller nonprofit organizations where they're getting that experience. And there's not 5 interns working at the same time at those places. Our students are the only people who are doing that kind of work for them. And it's been a really great situation for the students, because in so many cases, it sort of put them directly into the type of environment that they were really interested in working in, and giving them that really good firsthand experience, which again, if you go back to sort of the bigger schools where you just get slotted into a prearranged internship, you kind of get what you get, right? So I really liked the opportunity to help a student sort of dig up and find the perfect internship over my time here.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too, about making sure that as soon as you get to Pacific, you get to know your faculty. So your faculty can help you find those customized internships and practica. Yeah. Ryan, how about you? What about the College of Business?
Yeah, so way we look at it with business, there's really kind of, I always say, three pillars that we're really focused on. First one's really development. So before even getting to the internships, we have different learning labs and different opportunities really to prepare you on the resume front, different fairs, either through the university, College of Business, all of them are accessible for everybody, no matter what, to be able to talk with different recruiters, and then preparing your LinkedIn and everything to make sure you're ready to apply for those opportunities when they come up. The other core is we actually have classes which kind of work like internships with College of Business. So one of my favorites is in accounting. You can actually help elderly and low income individuals prepare their taxes. So that's coming up in the spring. So our accounting students, usually I think you have to be in your third year or higher. You're able to actually work with doing that. If that's a career path you're interested in, it's a great opportunity. Same thing with finance, where you're actually helping to educate those in local community on understanding their finances, understanding the basics of investing, budgeting, all of that kind of stuff. And then we do help place students in different opportunities, whether it's internship or career placement. The big thing is that a lot of times with business, it's a wonky timeline. Every major and interest is kind of different. So like accounting students usually need to be a year before marketing students on applying to internships if they want to work at big accounting firms and such. But we do try to make it so you're able to access whatever internships you're interested in. So I have one student who, she's a senior this year, and I think it was her sophomore year, she started helping the Valley Art. Basically, it's I don't know how to describe it best. It's a little store in town that they basically sell local artists productions. And so she helped them with their marketing strategy, even though she's an accounting major. And she went ahead, took that internship experience and was able to roll it into helping herself get an internship with Deloitte. And so after doing a different type of internship last summer due to COVID, instead of the long-term one, she did a short session virtually, but she got offered a full-time job back home in Hawaii. And so she's going to be traveling around and doing a lot of consulting and auditing work with them. So that's really kind of the key component, not just with the College of Business, but really the whole university is focusing on preparing you to get those internships, preparing you with classes, and then making sure we can help find those opportunities for you in things you're interested in, or just something that you might want to try out to see if that's the career path you want to take. Because internships help you get into those jobs, but they also help you understand that is exactly a career I do not want to do. And that's sometimes just as, if not more important. So yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. Rebecca, did you want to mention any experiences in natural sciences?
Sure, for sure. I mean, I think the customizability is really an important thing to talk about. You know, we are pretty good at helping students find what fits them best and where they want to go. And we want to leverage those internships to help them be competitive in their next step, or as Brian was talking about, kind of trying on something, right? You know, we have connections and have placed students even at OHSU, which is the medical school and hospital in Portland. And then also with our graduate programs just in Hillsborough, about 15 minutes away, to do research, which can often be really useful for them if they're applying to those programs. There are various facilities that some of those graduate faculties actually work with that we've placed students, which is again another kind of great way to leverage a student in their next steps. So it really varies. We also have the summer research program you could get involved in. That is a paid summer research. It's 8 weeks working with a faculty member or two and possibly other students. And that is available whether you're in the social sciences or the arts and humanities as well. It's not just a natural sciences program. And so that's another, it's not exactly an internship, but it operates very much like an internship because you are, doing the science or the field of study with your professor and advancing some research goal there. So there are internal internships that can be really useful, and I'm sure Leaf can speak about that with the College of Ed and the Learning Center, right on campus, which is super fun. So yeah, so customizability, helping, being strategic about what that opportunity is I think really important. So.
Yeah, Leaf, I'd love to have you jump in here. And while you're talking, we have a question about the College of Education and wondering, what is it about Pacific's program that's better than other? I mean, why choose Pacific? Why go to Pacific if you want to be a teacher?
Yeah, that's a really good question and an important one to ask. So, it's interesting. One of the things that I hear regularly from principals and superintendents is that the candidates that they hire from Pacific come into their schools teaching like they already have a year of teaching under their belt. I hear that regularly. It's pretty incredible. And so our candidates are the students that are in our programs come out of our programs, teaching at a level that is, higher than someone that's just kind of stepping out of their undergraduate program or their licensure program. And I really do think that's because of the multiple kinds of practicum experiences that our students have. And so kind of like what you've been hearing here, through the different, colleges and programs, there's practicum experience that happens kind of in individual classes. So it's not unusual in the education program for you, if you were to be in the program, to through a class be in a school doing something hands-on, like redesigning a curriculum or assessing students. So that's a kind of, practicum experience. And then there's the, 2 days a week for the, for the whole day or half the day in the school, connected with a mentor teacher, helping that mentor teacher design meaningful learning, for their students. Okay, so that's another kind of immersive practicum experience. And then finally, right, it's student teaching, and oftentimes, I think one of the reasons why our students leave the program being so well prepared. I'll add to that too, that what we're hearing right now is that our students in their student teaching, we're hearing from their cooperating teachers that they're really well prepared for the remote teaching and learning, which is kind of interesting because we have a lot of experiences in remote learning and teaching and how to design that meaningfully. So our students are prepared to do that. But anyway, I think that one of the reasons why our students come out being as prepared as they are, at least what principals and superintendents are telling us, is because oftentimes that 2-day practicum is connected to their student teaching. So it isn't these kind of random experiences. They're linked, right? So they get deeper as you, the student, goes through the program. And I think that does distinguish us from, from other programs. And I would argue too that another thing that distinguishes us is the deep mentoring and coaching that goes along with in our programs, right? We learn through the doing. That's how we learn. And that doing needs to be coupled with intentional coaching and mentoring. And so when you have those things, put together, you come out highly skilled and prepared. And I think that differentiates us. And I'd be interested to hear from, from you all, if and when you experience that. So.
Yeah, thank you, Leif. I think, as we wind down with this session, I think it's important too to talk about fun and community. I think one thing that's hard about the current climate that we're living in with a pandemic is we don't have as much of those, unplanned, serendipitous, fun things that happen by just being around each other face to face. And I think that, to me, that's one of the really exciting parts about Pacific culture is, some places are very routinized. You do the same thing all the time. I think one thing about Pacific culture is that we're not afraid to change. We're not afraid to do different things. We're whimsical. You all remember when, all of a sudden all these red rocking chairs ended up on campus. It's just stuff like that where we like to have fun, and it's very playful. It's a playful culture. And I think, Sarah and Chris, it would be great to hear from you in terms of what kind of things. I mean, if you're a transfer student, you may be feeling a little bit like, well, how am I going to fit in? There are some students at Pacific who have been here since they're freshmen. How am I going to fit into that? And I wonder if, you two can talk about, what did you do for fun? How do you fit in at Pacific?
So as you were mentioning, JC, the community at Pacific is a lot of fun. Just walking, the campus is embedded in a bunch of trees, and in these big green areas where there's trees, you see students playing a number of games, and then from Frisbee, you also see just hammocks all hung up together, and they're all doing homework together, taking naps. You'll see students slacklining together. You'll see them playing volleyball down in the volleyball court. As well as there's a program at Pacific called Outdoor Pursuits. It's just right across the street from the main campus, where you can go rent outdoor gear and for either free and or very inexpensively. And they also have trips set up to take students out to go explore the Pacific Northwest. And that's a big reason a number of students come out here is because they want to be in the nature. And so there's a lot of students that are very involved with getting outdoors. And like myself included, I'm big into rock climbing and big into skiing. So there's always something all year round that I'm always outdoors. And I've taken a number of students out to teach them both sports, and they pass it on. And it's exciting to see that aspect of not just on campus fun, but students connecting on campus and then taking it out and then bringing what their experiences back to campus and then bringing other students out. So you always find something to do, and there'll always be someone that wants you to join them.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. So I actually was, I worked in admissions. So the first thing when I got to Pacific, I was getting trained and gonna work for the front desk in admissions. But if I'm being honest, I wish I was more involved on campus as a transfer student. I don't think I took advantage of those opportunities and read any of the emails that I got from the transfer club. And so I really, that's something I regret, is not taking up those opportunities. I especially regret not taking up the opportunity of, participating in outdoor pursuits big time, because when you're a student, it's, you get a lot of like the student discounts, and you have a lot of opportunities to get a shuttle to go up to the mountain if you want to go snowboarding and everything. So now I'm into snowboarding, and I have to pay full price as an adult, which sucks. But yeah, it's just one big piece of advice I have for all transfer students that I always try to drill into their brains is to be involved. Go to the transfer orientation, go check out the transfer lounge, because you will definitely find support, and your peers and whoever's around you who aren't transfer students, but it's always good to connect with other transfer students and see how they're doing. And it just gives you kind of a little bit more of a sense of belonging. But I didn't have any problems with making friends with students who weren't transfer students. Actually, all of my friends had attended Pacific like 2 years or 3 years prior to me even going to Pacific. So pretty easy to make friends here.
That's because our students are awesome. I feel like, really welcoming, cooperative, like people that you want to be around because they're supportive. So that definitely helps for sure. Any other questions from you all in the room? Anything you want to put on chat or anything you want to ask verbally? Doing okay? Is this all overwhelming?
Everybody's
Hi,
being all
Justin.
quiet.
I have something to say, I guess, just with if for also when I just first jumped on, possibly some of y'all think about coming this joining Pacific this upcoming spring, and it's likely that we'll still be Zoom classes. I've been not just very, extremely impressed and proud of my professors for how they took this on. They pride themselves in being in-person professors that's what they've done their whole life. And there is this sudden switch in the middle of last semester to go online. And right off the beginning, they nailed it and were able to provide quality education. And then over summer, just seeing the shift of how much time they took into investing how to learn Zoom and how to become online professors for the moment being. And I do not feel like in any way my education was lessened by being on Zoom. In fact, I think there's a lot of ways it was enhanced. It was a different way to engage with them, engage with the material. So if that's something that's in your mind of how is that going to play into your education and whatnot, I think it's not going to really do anything. You're just going to gain just a good education via Zoom or in person.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Great. Any other questions or comments from folks before we wind down? Justin, what do you think? How do we cover our territory there?
We can go ahead and we'll wind her down here a little bit early, but we will make sure that all of the students who are attending, that we actually send out an email with the contacts of everybody who is on this. Everybody is a little bit different when it comes to transfer, depending on the number of credits and resources and what they plan on studying. And so we want to make sure that we're actually connecting you with those things as well as faculty members, because, it is an important decision. It's, an investment of not only resources, but time. And we know that you're going to be a contributing factor here at the university. So we want you to be able to make an educated decision and not, yes, you definitely need to be here. Thank you guys all for coming. Panel, you guys have been great. Always fun to listen to everything. It makes me happy. I could not work here if I did not see amazing things happening with students all the time. So what everybody here is representing is great. So.
Yeah, and please, all of you in this room, don't be shy. Don't hesitate to send one of us an email. We love to just engage with you. We love to just email back and forth is totally fine, whatever you're comfortable with. Make sure that if you have questions that somebody answers them, okay?
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Justin.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody on the panel. Nice to see you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.